Ooh, okay, so we're ordering this, okay? So somebody back in the day said I in the denominator was like a big no-no. Okay, so we're gonna multiply by the conjugate. What's the conjugate of this denominator? Not one. No, so look at the denominator, that's right here. Okay, and we want to change the sign of this imaginary, right? Okay, so what's that going to be? Okay, so 1 minus I, right? And we're going to multiply that in the top, and we're going to multiply it in the bottom. So which one of these looks like this? G. Okay, so we're going to start off with G. So we're going to put like a 1 right here, or you can write it out, G first. Okay. Now we're going to actually multiply that out. Okay, so when we distribute that, we're going to get -2 times 1, which is going to give us -2. I'm going to put this over here. Sorry. -2. -2 times -I is going to give us a positive 2I. On the bottom, we're going to say 1 times 1, which is going to give us 1. 1 times -I is -I. I times 1 is going to give us positive I. And I times -I is going to give us -I squared. Which one of these does that look like? Which one of these does that look like? D, good. Okay, so that would be the second one. Okay. Now, if we simplified this, we would get -2 plus 2I over 1 minus I squared. So that would look like A. Okay. And then we're going to substitute in a -1 for that I squared. So that's going to be -2 plus 2I over 1 minus -1. So that's going to be F. And then we're going to simplify that. So that would give us -2 plus 2I over 2. So that would be E. And then all of this can take out, I'm sorry, I skipped one. It would be H. And then E. And then we can take out a 2 from everything in here. So that would be B. And then we would end up with C. Okay. Now, these are pretty lengthy. It's a lot of multiplying. Okay. So with that being said, what I need you to remember is the conjugate. Okay, multiply by the conjugate. And then that I squared equals -1. Okay. So today we're going to spend some time actually working on multiplying complex numbers to help us divide complex numbers. So similar to what we were doing on Friday. Okay, so if you missed Friday, it's okay. We're going over the same exact step. Okay, so to divide complex numbers, you cannot have an imaginary number in the denominator. Remember, that's a big no-no. So multiply the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate of the denominator. Okay, so we're going to take a look at number 1. What's the conjugate of number 1's denominator? It's the conjugate of the denominator. So take the denominator, which is 1 minus 2I. If we were going to do the conjugate, we're going to change the sign of the imaginary. So what is that going to give me? 1 plus 2I. So that's going to be 1 plus 2I. So we're going to multiply in the top and in the bottom. Okay, now what this slide did was it broke down into 2 pieces. So first we're going to find the numerator by multiplying 1 plus 2I by the numerator. Okay, now you can use the box if you want to, or you can just distribute. Most of you are going to want to distribute, but I'm going to do it both ways. So we got 8 times 1, which is going to give us 8. 8 times 2I, that's going to give us 16I. 3i times 1 is going to give us 3i, and 3i times 2i is going to give us 6i squared. For those of you who like the box, you set it up the exact same way. You're going to say 8 plus 3i and 1 plus 2i. And we multiply it out, and you get the exact same thing. Now, we've got a big mess right here. Can we simplify anything? Is there anything we can simplify? I hope so. Now, 16i and 3i can be simplified to 19i. And this 6i squared is now going to become a negative 6. So now I can combine 8 and negative 6, which will give me 2. And then we've got this plus 19i. Go ahead and take a moment and try to find the denominator. So you're going to multiply all of this out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that you should get a real number at the very end. So you shouldn't have an imaginary in it. Okay, so take a moment, try to multiply that out. Let's take a look at it. So when I multiply this out, I'm going to get 1 times 1, which is going to give us 1. 1 times 2i, which is going to give us 2i. Negative 2i times 1 is negative 2i. And negative 2i times 2i is going to give us negative 4i squared. Okay, so notice how I share it with each piece. Okay, so I don't just like multiply one of these things. I do every single part. Okay, when I simplify, these are going to cancel. And I'm going to get 1 minus 4, and that I squared is going to change into a negative 1. So this will simplify to 1 plus 4, which will be combined to make 5. Okay, now all we're going to do is we're going to take what we found in the numerator and put it over what we found in the denominator. And down here at the bottom, we're just going to write this as 2 plus 19i divided by 5. And is there anything we can take out? Is there a GCF? No. So then we're just going to leave it like that. Okay. I know it's a pretty lengthy process, but it requires you to make sure that you pay attention to each part. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. Okay. I want you to go ahead and identify the conjugate and then go ahead and multiply. Okay, so take a moment, identify what the conjugate is, and then go ahead and multiply that out. Well, first, what's the conjugate of the denominator? Let's talk about that one real quick. Change the sign of the imaginary in the bottom. 1 plus 2i. Okay, now go ahead and take a moment and multiply that in the top and multiply it in the bottom. All right, so when I multiply this out, 8 times 1, that gives me 8. 8 times 2i, that's 16i. 3i times 1, that gives me 3i. And 3i times 2i gives me 6i squared. I'm going to go ahead and multiply out the bottom. So 1 times 1, 1 times 2i, negative 2i times 1, and negative 2i times 2i is negative 4i squared. Okay, so I multiply out first. Now I'm going to simplify the top and the bottom. Okay, so now I'm going to simplify. So I can combine 16i and 3i. So that's going to give me 8 plus 19i. And we're going to go ahead and substitute in that negative 1. in the bottom, these would cancel. I'm going to get 1 minus 4 times negative 1. Okay, so we simplified, and then we remembered that I squared equals negative 1. Now we can combine our like terms. So 8 minus 6, because that's what this is going to turn into, is going to give us negative 2. I'm sorry, just positive 2. And then in the bottom, this is going to become negative 4 times negative 1, which is going to give us positive 4. 1 plus 4 is going to give us 5. Notice how that was the exact same thing as the first one. Okay. All right, so on this next one, I'm going to bring a sticky note by, and I want you to do it on the sticky note. Go ahead and make sure that you put your name on the sticky note. And this isn't like a gotcha moment. This is I need to know whether or not you understand what's going on. Okay. And not because you've been sitting there and scrolling through your phone, but because you legitimately are trying and you don't understand it. So I'm going to show you something that you can use on your test. So if you type into Google TI-84 emulator, and you go down to the second one, okay, you're going to follow these steps where you just click on that link. You're going to go to 8 and 11 graphing calculator. Okay, and this is going to look like a lot like what we used last year for testing. But if you go up to the very, very top, there's a calculator. Okay, now I know that was a lot of clicks, but once you get here, what you can do is you can essentially type in the question. Okay, so I need you to pay attention because I'm trying to make your life easier. Okay, so for instance, right here we have 3 plus 2i over 2 plus 2i, right? I had it pulled up a second ago. Sorry. Okay, so when you go in here, if you use your parentheses, okay, so if I go to mode and I hit a plus bi, okay, so down here I'm going to hit a plus bi, and I use my parentheses and I say 3 plus 2i, which the I is hitting that second and then the decimal, over 2 plus 2i. And again, that I is hitting second decimal point. When I hit enter, it's going to give me it in decimal form. If you hit math, enter, it'll give me it in fraction form. And so if you solve that out, you should have gotten 5 minus I over 4. That should have been your answer. If you didn't get that, you've got some practice to do. We've already created a Delta Math for a review in order for you to prepare for the CFA that's on Wednesday. Okay, so I would practice that Delta Math. Okay, so again, if you go to your Delta Math, that's fine. If you go to your Delta Math, there's your assignment for Digital Learning Day. And then right here, this is going to be changed to CFA review. Okay, this is what you can be working on in order to prepare for that CFA that's going to be on Wednesday. Okay, so I would highly suggest you work on that this week. Okay, fantastic.